Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Maria Kies and I am a founder of I Am Visible that helps women find their inner gifts and talents and then become visible to the world. And today we have a guest speaker, Jane Brothwell, who is a counselor, and she also takes a stance against violence against women. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you, Maria. It's good to be with you.
Yes, you too. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And you?
Excellent. Yes, very well, thank you. Good. So talking about becoming visible, so what does visible mean to you?
Visible for me means being out in the public eye, means not hiding at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's also being vulnerable, being authentic and letting people know who you are. As a public figure, they see you speaking, they see you up front, but to know that you're coherent with who you are in private life as well as public life, that's what being visible means to me.
That's a very good point, actually, because that's the thing. Sometimes we have these different personalities, don't we? And we're someone else in the public and we're someone else in private, but we should actually be the same no matter where we are.
Well, I think it's we do have public masks. We have we're different with our friends than we are with our boss. We're different with our family. So I think that those are perfectly natural things, but it's making sure that it's not a mask to hide something that you don't want people to know about. It's just your public persona. You are still coherent, whether you're speaking or with your family. You've still got the same values and the same integrity.
Yeah, that's a very good point, of course, because we do need to be different, as you say, with our boss or with our families, but it's like deep down, but stand for the same values and have integrity.
Exactly.
That's,
Yes.
Excellent. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your journey and the challenges you had to overcome to become visible?
To become visible. When I was a child, I hated being visible. I would go red right up to my hairline. It was a very embarrassing thing to be visible because I was taller than everybody else. I was about a head taller than everybody else in my class. And so it was difficult to be different. And then as a teenager, things didn't get better. I was always taller than everybody else. And then I just sort of settled down into adult life, and you do your job and you do your bit and you don't ask too many questions until you get to a point where you have to take a position. You either decide, am I going to be invisible and quiet, shut up and not talk, or am I going to speak out against something? Am I going to say that that's wrong, or that I don't agree, or that I think something different? And that's going to be costly. And I think that at one point I did lose myself, that it was easier to be quiet. It was easier to not speak out. And because I lost part of myself, I actually ended up in therapy at one point, to be able to find me again, to find who I was, what I believed in and what I wanted to do. And so from that, it's funny because I taught at that time. I taught English as a foreign language in companies, so to business people who needed English for business purposes. And I was already standing up teaching in front of a class, but like we just spoke about, I did have a mask on at that point, and that mask was to stop everybody from seeing that if that mask fell down, then I would just be a mess on the other side of it. And so going through this growth challenge, really, it was allowing the mask to come down without me falling to pieces without it. And so actually going from being counselled, later I became a counsellor. And from there, I met with several people, quite a lot of people, in fact, ladies who had been victims of violence. So we're talking about incest, rape, domestic violence, intrafamily violence. And so it involved working with them and understanding the particularities of these victims of abuse. And so I went off again, got trained, because you work with these people differently. And I got cross with seeing so many women come to therapy with abuse and thinking, this isn't right. You know, I'm working in the aftercare, but what are we doing in prevention? And of course, prevention means, you know, being upfront, letting people know that this happens and that it doesn't need to happen. You know, we can, it's not a fatality. We can do something differently, but we need to change. And so that was the beginning of my journey of bringing awareness against domestic violence. And I had a stand at a local organisation where there were about 3,000 charities and associations represented. And I was giving out my flyers and talking to people and explaining what it was. And after that, local reps of different associations who work with women, who work in different social sectors, said, you know, well, would you come and talk? And so all of a sudden I went from just handing out flyers to being on the stage with the microphone and having to talk about this and to teach people. And so it was all through that journey, which had gone from at the beginning of being painfully shy and terribly embarrassed about being in public, to actually having a cause where it was a question of, if I don't speak out about this, who's going to do it? And so when you have something that you believe in, well, for me anyway, that was the click moment that sort of got me loosened up. And I sort of think, well, there are lives to be saved, there are women to be taken care of, and I can't not say something because it could cost lives.
Yeah, that's so very well said. It's like our why is so important, isn't it? We're doing something. If we don't have that, it's sometimes it's very difficult to take action and stand for something.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, carry on.
It's having the why, it's having the cause, but also being healthy enough in yourself that you can stand up without being without falling apart when you get criticized or when someone doesn't like what you say. So I think it was the healing journey of who I was, but also having the cause and me wanting to get involved in that.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. It's very important to come from that place that where we healed ourselves. It's even when we talk, that's why we should only share stories where we have already healed and that we have something to put across to someone, rather than saying from that point of still being wounded, because then we haven't come across the other side yet.
I think that if you haven't done that heart work, then you're going to get wounded. Because your self-esteem will get attacked. Your vision of yourself, you'll think that, oh no, I'm a terrible person, I can't do this, or I'm stupid, or whatever. And it's so important to know that it doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
You know, it just has to be good enough. You just need to be yourself, and that's good enough.
So working with these women that are abused, like in domestic violence and stuff, how do you see them like in becoming visible? What is it that they kind of, what are they hiding from, or how do you find where you work with them? But what is the actual thing that keeps them invisible? Obviously, because that's one of the things. They must be lacking self-esteem, or
yeah, they're lacking a lot of self-esteem, but it wasn't their fault. I think it's very important to say that when you get into a violent relationship, you didn't intend to get into a violent relationship. You know, you didn't sign up to be hit, to be humiliated, to be verbally abused, to be raped, to have your checkbook confiscated. You don't sign up for that. And it happens little by little, that it gnaws away at someone's self-esteem. And it gnaws away at their very identity, which is what's so devastating with this kind of abuse, is that you need to rebuild the whole person afterwards. It's painful. It takes time. It's possible.
Yeah, of course.
But it's costly. And so bringing them back to life, you know, recuperating self-esteem, being able to think again, because one of the problems is that the aggressor comes and squats their mind and they can think for themselves. It's very important to be able to to distinguish the, good from evil, right from wrong, what's true, what's not true, how have I been manipulated? And it's recuperating what belongs to you. And then once they've done, I was writing about this recently, there will be a time when they're very much in pain, where they can't see the end of the tunnel. And then there'll be an aha moment where they've just suddenly got it. And they've had enough therapy, and they'll be like a new person. They'll come in and they'll be full of energy, and they'll have found the spunk and the inner resources to be able to go the next step, to say, I'm not going to put up with that anymore. I'm going to do this. I'm going to sign up for this course. I'm going to protect my children. I'm going to get a job. And that you really see them coming back to life and getting back what's been destroyed or stolen.
That must be so amazing and rewarding to witness that, because you were part of their journey to brought them to that point.
Yeah, it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding to see them coming back to life, to see them wanting to participate again, wanting to succeed, wanting to do something. It does take time, but
of course,
it's a very difficult but rewarding journey. Yeah.
So on that note, who inspired you when you were younger, and who inspires you today? Or is it still the same people?
Mother Teresa inspired me. So did James Bond.
Well, he's a very strong character. He's very confident.
He was a very strong character. And I think that because he was a strong character and, he was the goodie and he won, it was encouraging to me, who was painfully shy and, would get so embarrassed at things, that, perhaps one day I could aspire to being, a little bit more like James Bond.
Oh, there you go.
I think that the main person who inspired me was Jesus Christ, especially in the way that he was with women. He was around at a time where women were just merchandise. They were commodities, there for bearing children and looking after the family. And he gave them a real place. He gave them their identity. He said, it's okay to be a woman. You're valid. When I think of some of the stories with Mary, especially after the resurrection, she came to the tomb and found that he wasn't there. And when she realizes that he's risen and he's standing there and he calls her by name, and she runs to him, and there's something, she knew that she'd be welcomed. She knew that she was going to be accepted as she was. And I think that was liberating, because for me, my experience has been that sometimes you're not accepted when you're a woman. That you're not accepted because you cry, or because you're weak, or because you're not as physically strong as a man, or because you talk too much. That it was okay to be who you are. And that was very liberating and very revealing for me.
Yeah, that's so true. We don't think, especially in those days, women obviously had no place. I mean, even today in some societies, but so that's very empowering and inspirational. So what is your mission in life, Jane?
What's my mission? To comfort those who mourn and to bind up the brokenhearted.
Beautiful. So what does confidence mean to you, and how would you describe it?
Confidence. Confidence for me is knowing that I'm okay as I am, and that I'm sufficiently competent to be able to do what I'm called to do. And that allows me to be able to step forward, to step out, to speak out, to also work in private with people, and to be confident that I know what I'm doing. There are things that I don't know. I'm not an expert on everything.
No, none of us are.
Yeah, but it's knowing that I'm good in my strengths, and that's what I'm called to be. And the rest, well, you either delegate or you just let go of it. You know, you do what you can. But being confident that what I can do and who I am is enough for me and for others and for what I can bring into life.
Excellent. Yeah, that's very important to know that we are enough as we are, because we're always striving for something more. And as you said, like, if you can't do something, delegate. Don't think that you have to do everything yourself. Just focus on your strengths and then don't really,
And even when we do have strengths, you know, like you just said, you know, we don't stay where we are, we try to improve them. But it's working in your strengths and not getting hung up that, you know, you're not very good at accounting or you're not very good at cooking. Well, have a takeaway, learn to cook.
Yes.
You know,
get a cook.
Get a cook, yeah.
For you, yeah.
Right, so it's finding ways around it. You don't have to be good at everything, but what you are good at, you know, really concentrate on your strengths, and your strengths are things that also bring you pleasure, because you know that you're good. It's confirmed by your peers, and you know that you're participating. You know that you're contributing to the common good.
Absolutely. So what would your last words of wisdom be to our viewers? What would you advise women to kind of gain more confidence and become visible? What would you suggest? Well,
the problem with confidence is that you have to step out and be visible.
Yes.
And it's only once you've done it, it's actually confronting the fears. I think one thing that someone said to me was do it afraid, do it anyway. And I
agree.
We tend to avoid things that we don't like. And the problem with avoiding is that we stay nice and safe, but we never actually confront our fears. And I remember the first time I spoke, I was trembling all over. You know, you could see the microphone visibly shaking. I was thinking, everybody can see I'm shaking. I thought, well, I got to the end of my message and said, you know, well, it was good, you know, and the feedback was good. So I knew that I was in the right place. So I did it regardless of my fears. And now I still get afraid sometimes, or I get, you know, my stomach goes in knots when I think that there's 200 people in front of me. But it's doing it anyway, because once you're out there and once you're doing something for something that you believe in, then you're there for a reason. So I think you need to know why you're doing something, and also, rather than hide behind shame or fear or lack of confidence, to say, I'm going to try this. And when you've tried it, even if it wasn't perfect, you have the satisfaction of, I did it.
Yes.
I did it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's really important that when you do something, then that will increase your self-confidence, and then you'll want to do it again, and then the second time you'll prepare differently, or you'll readjust something so that it goes better. And so by constantly making yourself vulnerable and putting yourself out there without taking unnecessary risks, then you start to think, oh, I'm actually doing okay, I'm quite good at this. And so that will increase your confidence, and then the people's feedback. You know, have some, you know, kind people, have some supporters in the crowd, and say, you know, will you give me some feedback?
Yeah, that's very important. So that's how we can move forward and learn from our mistakes. And that's a very good point, what you were saying about still being nervous. And I've spoken to so many people who are like successful, who've been doing in different industries, they've been there for years, and they actually say that they always get a bit nervous before. And if they didn't, they would get worried.
Yes.
It's kind of, are you overcome, you know, that you almost kind of, because this is a human thing, isn't it? It doesn't matter how many times we've done it, but it's always new people, and it's different every time.
Well, every time you put yourself up for potential rejection, for potential failure, you don't know what people are thinking, because when you talk to people, people's faces are very blank, And you think, you know, what's going on in their head? You know, are they listening? You know, are they thinking about, you know, this evening's dinner? Are they actually with me? You know, is this provoking something? And so you can't control that. So the only thing you can control is yourself.
Yeah.
So you work on yourself, you do what you've got to do, and then how people receive it, then that's entirely up to them. And I think that's also part of this, you know, being vulnerable and being authentic, is leaving them that possibility that you haven't got to control them, you haven't got to know everything about them, but just put it out there, and then afterwards it's their responsibility. My job is to be there and to share what I've got to share.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Jane. That was so lovely of you.
You're welcome.
To share your journey. So if our viewers wanted to know a little bit more about you, where can they find you?
Now, I do have a website. Most of it's in French because I live in France. I don't know if you mentioned that. There is part of it in English. And I also have a Facebook page, which people can also join me on.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so, because there's some more great interviews coming up. And thank you.